Hi friends, this is Carissa and I am back with another video for Brutus Monroe. We are going to make this fun card using some stamping through stenciling. I pulled out this stencil first and some of my favorite cardstock to blend on, and pulled out 3 colors to start with of my Distress Oxides. Working with squeezed lemonade at the top, then I'm going to blend into Peacock feathers in the middle, and then I'm going to go into picked raspberry on the bottom. I am using a Picket Studios blending brush to do all of my blending today, and I'm just starting out by slowly or softly blending those colors together. I am using a different brush for each color since they are completely different color families. I like to use a clean brush in between, and then I blend them up into each other just ever so slightly, and I'm going to continue that on across the card. I really wanted to pick some bright colors for my card. I ended up using a really fun stamp that I'm going to color for you later on in the video, and I just felt that I wanted a really bright, almost kind of like a rainbow background for that stamp. So that's where the inspiration came for this ink blending, and I chose this stencil in particular for this technique because to stamp through the stencil I really wanted as much of the stamping to show through, and this stencil I had in my stash really worked well with that because it has quite an open area. So I'm just going to continue to blend back and forth until I'm really happy with that, and then I'm going to go ahead and go into the stamping. So I go right into it. I don't wait for the Distress Oxides to dry or anything, and I don't find that it was necessary to do that, but I just really wanted the background to be very, very vibrant. So I did go back and forth two times to get the blending just right. So I'm looking at it, I decide it's time, we can start stamping. So I'm going to be using this Love You Florals stamp set, which I absolutely love the florals in that stamp set, but I'm going to be using the sentiments in the stamp to do my stamping through the stenciling. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to just place that on a block. So you can see I have left my stencil right where it was with my paper underneath it, and I am adding some of the detail ink Engraven to the stamp, and I'm just going to press it down very firmly, making sure that it gets through all of the stencils. So it's a little bit of a process because you do have the stencil there, which is elevated, and you want to get that impression in between those areas. So I am giving it quite a bit of firm pressure, and I am just lining it up, trying to get as much of the text to show through as I can, and also just trying to fill it in those little empty areas in between. So you really can't see what this is saying at all. It is just to give a bit of a pattern through the stencil. So you're basically kind of building your own pattern paper in the background by using the stencil, the ink blending to create that beautiful color blend, and then the text from the sentiment stamp just gives you that bit of pattern peeking through. And I really just love this look, and I use text stamps in my mixed media all the time, and that is why I thought this would be such a cool way to use and show you this technique. So once I have all of that stamped, and you can see that there are areas where I didn't press hard enough and I didn't quite get a good impression, but that's okay because perfection is not what I'm going for in this look. I really just want that texture and pattern for my background. So now I'm going to pull out some of these aqua pigments. This is from the Skin and Hair collection, and I loved these so much in my last video that I wanted to use them again. And these skin and hair pigments are pretty unique in that they have a shimmer to them. They're pearlescent, I would say, and so you have that really pretty sheen while you're watercoloring. So I would keep that in mind for this particular collection, and it's really fun. It gives you a really cool technique or a really cool look. So I'm just pulling out a watercolor brush, a number 2 round, because this is a very detailed image. I think this is from the Be Unique stamp set. All of the supplies will be listed in the description box below. If you're interested in any of them that I use, you can just click on those links and head right on over to Brutus Monroe and check them out for yourself. So I'm just using a combination of this like creamy color mixed with a little bit of a kind of like a warm pink color, and then I'm going to drop in some of that pink just on the cheeks and in the ear there. I love these little stamps so much. They're very cute, very funky looking. I've had them for quite a while. My daughter has used them lots and lots of times, and this is actually the first time that I have pulled them out to color them, and they were just so much fun to color. I wanted to keep them very kind of neutral, so I picked out the black that is in that set, and aside from the bunny itself and the umbrella, which I pull out a red violet aqua pigment, I kept it very neutral because of the bright color background that I created. So I'm just adding a bit of shading here, keeping it very loose. I don't want to get very detailed with the coloring of this image at all because it's just not necessary. And right here I am looking at this little line on the stamp that I couldn't quite figure out what it was. I could tell it wasn't part of the jacket, and I was looking like to figure out how to color, right? So I wanted to figure out, what am I coloring this jacket color and what am I not? And I ended up looking at the line art on the stamped image or the packaging and realized that I think that is the ear of the bunny kind of folded over underneath the hat. So that's what I end up coloring it as. And anytime that you have a stamp and you're not quite sure what something is, and that happens to me a lot, you know, basically whatever you see it as and whatever you color it as is what people are going to see, and they're not going to think that you colored it wrong. They're just going to see, you know, the fun coloring that you've done on the image. So don't stress too much about it. I sometimes overthink it, so I want to encourage you guys not to. So here's where I brought in that beautiful red violet aqua pigment color. I felt like her little umbrella just needed a little pop of something, as well as her little socks. So I thought that was a fun touch, but everything else I kept very, very neutral and really liked. So here's where I'm looking at this stamp. Like I told you, like I'm trying to figure out, what is that? So here I go. I'm gonna just make an executive decision and color that in to match the bunny. I think it's her ear. You guys can tell me in the comments what you think it is. I would love to know. So now that I'm done with all of the fun coloring, you can see that shimmer. Isn't it amazing? It's super cool. Anyway, I loved it so much. I'm going to just pick up this excess off of my palette and just splatter it on that background. So we've got that wonderful Distress ink Oxide, and it's going to react, and with that shimmer, it just leaves a really cool effect. And I like that it goes, you know, where the stenciling the white areas. It just gives it breaks it up a little bit. So I went ahead and fussy cut that little image out. Now I'm going to work on the sentiment. I cut a little strip of this dark gray cardstock that I have, and I'm taking out the sentiment from that stamp set. It says, "Gray skies are gonna clear up," I think. Yeah. And I am going to stamp it with the Alabaster Pigment ink in white. And this stamps beautifully on dark cardstock. So like if you don't want to emboss, if you don't want to take that extra step to emboss, you just want to make something quick and simple, this ink is perfect. It works beautifully on the dark cardstock and gives a really good impression with those fine detail sentiment images. So I loved this mirror cardstock that I used also last week in my video, and I just had to use it again on this one. I cut it down to fit my top folding A2 size card, so it's 4¼ by 5½, and it's going to fit that front panel perfectly. I'm just going to trim down the edge a little bit because I, of course, put it on a little bit crooked. So I'm going to trim that edge off just a little bit. Then I cut my background stenciled panel down. I don't even know the exact dimensions, but just so that I have about maybe 1/4 of an inch on either side, maybe half an inch, I don't know, just so I have a little bit of that mirrored cardstock peeking through. I love this paper with its prism qualities. I mean, you can just see that rainbow reflecting off of my lights above, and it's just so cool. And I thought it was really fun to go with this whole theme of the card, to have that peeking through around this beautiful rainbow background. So I'm just going to attach that. I inked up the edges a little bit just to give it some more definition and frame it a bit. And now I'm just attaching that down in the middle so we have those beautiful mirrored sides on each end. Cut down my sentiment panel or my sentiment strip with a little bit of an angle, and now I'm popping up my image with some dimensional tape. And that's it. That is my card. I think it's beautiful, and I think it would be so fun to send out to somebody who's maybe not having the best time or just needs a little bit of encouragement. I think this would be sure to brighten up anyone's day. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and definitely subscribe to the Brutus Monroe YouTube channel, as well as my YouTube channel. You can find me at Inky Fairy Designs on YouTube and on Instagram if you want to follow me there. Super happy to bring you this card. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to know what you think. If you do create something inspired by this, please feel free to tag Brutus Monroe and add the hashtag create your own ending, and you can tag me as well at Inky Fairy Designs. I'd love to see what you're creating so I can stop by and say hi. Until next week, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.